Okay, so welcome to our first community board as the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board. So we get to sport it proudly, our new name. Welcome to Hazel and Brian and Julie. Lovely to have you here, Julie. And I see Gina's over the back along with Kirsty, Vanessa, Sally and Kieran. So lovely to have everybody on board. So we will get on with our agenda. So first up, we have apologies. And unfortunately, Jill can't be with us tonight. So can I have someone move that we accept the apologies of Member Taylor for non-attendance? John, thank you. Second, Bruce. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, have we got any members' interests that need to be disclosed this evening in regard to any of the items on the agenda? No, all good, we'll move on. First up, we have our public forum. So today, for our public forum, I would like to be able to present Hazel Barnes with an award and some flowers from us to acknowledge the amazing effort and work and time that you have spent not only as a community board member, but also as a councillor and supporting us and supporting community boards through your time. So as an acknowledgement of that, Hazel, if you would like to accept from us. And put this on because I just like to read this out. So we're giving Hazel a certificate that says, on behalf of the Te Awamutu and district communities, we would like to thank and acknowledge your contribution through your many years of service and continued support of the Te Awamutu Community Board. We congratulate and thank you for your enthusiasm and dedication to making Te Awamutu and district a wonderful place to live. So thank you, Hazel. Thank you. So and I'd just also like to thank you very much for being there and listening to me and helping me along the way as well on my personal journey on the community board. So thank you very much from me too.
My pleasure.
So
my pleasure. And thank you for this. You know, when I thought when I moved here and had a home in Kihikihi, I just wondered about the community because I wasn't really part of the community. I grew up in Newstead and I thought I want to do something. And so then I've forgotten who it was that came to see me, who suggested that perhaps I might like to be on council. But then Max Jones was there and Max said to me, really get to know the community first, Hazel, and get onto the community board and come upwards. Don't start at the top and think you know it all and work your way downwards. So I did. And I stood for the community board and got on. And that was why I was such a strong advocate in council for the community and what was the community saying. And I'm so delighted when I walked in here tonight, or somehow gotten here tonight, or perhaps it was walking, was to see that you are now the Te Awamutu and Kihikihi Community Board. Now you've got no idea the thrill that gave me, that Kihikihi has long been left out of the picture. In fact, when I was there, it was the scrubbiest looking place that I had really ever lived in, but in particular, the main street. And I shall never forget the way and the attitude that I had to work my way through to actually get that street upgraded. But it was a case of grit your teeth, keep smiling, and just keep doing it. I'm delighted that the Kihikihi domain turned from a cow paddock into a international equestrian centre. And it's talked about, Mark Todd's talked about it over in England. I'm delighted with the change, the cleanliness, the look of the place, and all the other things that their staff have worked very hard to bring the matter to the council to actually get something done about it. And Kihikihi now matches everywhere else, and everywhere else better look out, including Cambridge, that we haven't got facilities now over here that are the best that you'll find in the country. I congratulate you as the board. I certainly congratulate Ange for all the work that she's done and keeping it going. And when I look at the community board, I think now the council's finally got it in their head that the work, the understanding has to come from the bottom up. And the bottom up means also talking to those who have not got everything that everybody else has got. But it doesn't seem that we're adding to those statistics of homelessness very much so in this community as it is in the rest of New Zealand. Because I get lots of times to watch TV and listen to the news and get in on all the programs. And it's kind of nice, but I do miss you all. I miss the fun and laughter that we used to have. I miss our meeting, our staff support, and I miss the way that you're climbing up. I don't envy you though, because I think that what you're going to have to deal with is getting more and more complex, and it's depending a lot more on what the people say and what the community wants. So good on you. I think you're well served by the people that you've got. You're well served with staff behind you, and I wish you all the best for the next 3 years. And I'm not giving up, I'm not stopping, but I'm also not leading or doing anything. I'm going to support several exercises that are going on out there, and that's going to be that, because I need to, I've only got one leg. So it's kind of, I'll just have to scale things back. But look, well done. I've loved working with you. I've loved all the attitude of everybody, because you all gave a little bit of yourself into every decision that was made. I noticed that everybody, that gave, and I'm sorry that I missed out on coming to the community boards as often as I could have, but it was certainly the community board that kicked me off and set me on the right track. So I look forward to supporting you now as an ordinary person out there who can have a say. So thank you very much. Thank you for these flowers. I just adore them. My garden, the grass has actually been able to grow this high because I can't get out into the garden for a while. And thank you for this. This will go up on the wall, and it'll just remind me of, that QSM that I got was a lot to do with the work that I did, but I'm not blind. It wasn't only me that did it. It was me with all of you. So happy Christmas, have a good new year, and have a good holiday. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hazel. And I think Vanessa's going to help you with those. So thank you very, very much. Kia ora, Tiaki, were you wanting to speak at the forum, or were you here just to join us for our meeting tonight? Awesome. Kia ora. Okay, so we will move on to item 4, which is the confirmation of minutes, which is on pages 7 to 10 of our agenda. So if we can have someone move that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board confirms the minutes of the meeting held 31 October 2022 is circulated with the agenda as a true and correct record of proceedings. Sally and Lou? Yep, all in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Okay, pleased you agreed with that. All right, so now we move on to item 5, which is the election of the deputy chairperson, which is detailed on pages 10 to 11. So if I can call for nominations, please, Lou.
I nominate Kane Titchener.
And can I have someone to second Kane? Sally, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Carried. Congratulations, Kane, and thank you for stepping into that position. And thank you, everyone, for your support of Kane.
Yeah, thank you very much, members.
Okay, so now we will move on to item 6, the light motor vehicle prohibitions, and we've got Julie speaking to that, Julie Taylor, the Transportation Safety Officer, and if we want to refer to pages 12 to 19 in our agenda. Thanks, Julie, all yours.
Thank you. So this is something we've been working on for a little while, trying to get something that we can do about the antisocial driving we've got going on. Where we've got to is putting together a light motor vehicle prohibition register where we can put roads on there that are suitable for this type of prohibition and that where there is an issue, so that we can give police something else to act on here. If everyone's happy to take the rest of the report as read, then we'll take any questions.
Okay, so have we got any questions or any other recommendations of places? I've got some, but we'll go to the members first, Lou.
Yeah, fine. Look, I'm quite supportive of this, and this has gone through council, as you well know. Just the one thing is on the Puhui loop, you've actually got K Road going right through. K Road is actually a dead end road. It doesn't go right through to Chamberlain Road. Quite significant. It doesn't loop that way. So it is a loop, and it doesn't have that addendum of that third path through there. And I want to actually add to this is that we used to have a lot of things like Targa rallies, and the New Zealand rally actually use it as a tarmac. So it was actually very, and it has been quite popular, as I found right out beside that, for a lot of youth to come through and at very, very high speeds at times, you know, in the middle of the night. I've had 3 or 4 through my own gateway, so I've got personal experience. So I'm very supportive of what you're doing, as long as I think you follow the rules that you stated here, that you actually contact all the local people and give them the ability to be able to transit if necessary, you know, have a right to transit. I'm very supportive. Bond Road as well, as I'm well aware of that one as well.
And that's one of the reasons K Road was actually included there, because if it wasn't part of the resolution, people couldn't travel through the resolution areas to get to it.
No, that's right. Well, they go down it to Blind Road, but they use it. It's got a bit of a hill at the end of it, and they use it to accelerate up very rapidly at times. So very well aware of that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lou. Did anyone else have any comments or any other places that they thought should be added at all? No? Okay, I've got a couple. So Harrison Drive was one. Often we see obvious skid marks and stuff down there. Probably don't congregate so much, but worth maybe looking at. Lake Naroto. In the past, we've had some quite serious skids all around down there. Airport Road at the moment is currently looking horrific.
Yeah, we actually can't do anything about Airport Road because it's a state highway. Yeah, so.
Okay, what about the little roads off it then? You know, so the actual Titanium Park and those little dead end roads. So the new one at this end?
Many of them as we can into that.
Because they're pretty bad down there at the moment, like leaving half a tyre there, etc. But anyway, those were, and also I got in touch with ComSafe and Ryan Fleming, and they came back with Meadway Road intersection with State Highway 39. What was the comment there? Ryan was passing that on to the District Road and Police as well. And Mandy had added a little bit to that. Oh, she suggested Patarangi and Meadway Road. And their comments were, these roads are a common meet place as well. The danger at the intersection is travellers along State Highway 39. Otherwise, they were happy with the rest of the list. So that was just a little bit of extra feedback from me.
Yep, no, we'll certainly have another look into those. I know the Medway Road intersection we did look at, having spoken to Ryan previously.
Yeah.
But again, it's on the state highway.
Yeah.
And it's a really tricky place, and an intersection is a difficult place to put a prohibition. Yes, because they only have to move a little bit out of the way and they're not in the prohibition area anymore.
Yeah.
So it's about how we could, say we can't put it on the state highway, so that's a quick, easy place to get out to and park up and say wasn't us. Yeah.
I suppose if they are at least parked there back, because there's quite good road verge along Patarangi Road, for example, coming out there. I can't remember what it's like at Midway Road as far as road verge goes, but I suppose they're more likely to sit where the better road verge is, isn't it?
Yes, where there's space for spectators, because there's no point doing it if there's not somebody to watch you.
Exactly. Exactly. Bruce.
Thank you, Ange. Julie, the police, they say, are unlikely to action anything unless it's been observed or reported. Is Comms doing anything to encourage the public to get on the phone quickly so they've got a chance to
that will be part of the process once we establish, okay, this is going to be the register, and we've consulted with all the local residents and made sure it will work for them, is to let people know what it's about, what they can and can't do.
I'm just new at this, so I'll ask a question, Julie. Have they done this in, I know it's a national problem, boy racism or antisocial behaviour. Have they done prohibitions in other areas, and do they work?
We've based our bylaw section 29 on work that's been done in Hamilton and Tauranga. Obviously slightly different situations because they're more urban than us, but Brian was working at Tauranga at the time and said it was particularly effective there because it was teamed up with an undercover police operation where they had people going along to these events and taking footage that they could then use to confiscate vehicles. So if we can give the police this to help them work with it, hopefully they can take some more action on it as well.
Yeah, I can probably quickly add to that, Sally, too. The other thing that this helps is currently under the law as it is, unless the police actually catch the offender actually doing something, they can't do anything about it. But by putting this change in the bylaw, what it means is that people that are congregating can actually be impacted, and police can issue tickets or confiscations and things like that to kind of help stop the mass watching, I suppose, or mass support, which, as Julie's just pointed out there, one of the main reasons is, I suppose, really to show off and show their quality driving skills. So, yeah, but that was from police perspective.
And one of the other things police can do if a vehicle is found within a prohibition zone is they can put a warning notice on it. And if that lasts for 90 days, if they're found within another prohibition zone within that 90 days, the vehicle can be confiscated, which is probably one of the most effective outcomes.
Okay, well, if there's no further questions for Julie, let's receive the report of Julie Taylor, Transportation Safety Officer, titled Light Motor Vehicle Prohibitions, and B, that we've provided feedback to the Transportation Safety Officer on the roads recommended for light motor vehicle prohibitions. We don't need to add the ones we've suggested to that, do we?
I think I'll put it in the minutes, so straight after the recommendation, I'll say that we get the feedback included.
Okay.
I've noted all your roads.
Okay, great. Okay, so can I have someone move that, please? Kane, thank you. John, seconding. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Julie. I hope you have a very Merry Christmas. Yep, and thanks, Brian, for popping in too, and Merry Christmas to you as well. Oh, of course you will be, because Eric's not here. Yes, good spotting. All right, so now, Brian, it's your turn to sit in the chair. So we move to item 7, Urban Mobility Programme, and we're looking at pages 20 to 22. So, Brian, welcome. Lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, so you have heard previously, well, in the previous community board about this project, and you helped us prioritise the Kihikihi project for the Te Miru area. And so this report just confirms that direction that Council's taking with this project, and shows the scope of it there. And the good news is really that the government has come forward with that additional funding from the Climate Emergency Response Fund, which will really help us hit our targets for construction and allow us to get a lot more done over the next couple of years on this project. So I'll take that report as read and then just answer any questions you have about the project.
Okay, thanks, Brian. So have we got any questions for Brian around this?
Not
No.
really questions, just very supportive. I sat on the urban committee with Eric, and this was well discussed, and we actually contacted a lot of the local residents, and it's well supported. There were two options on the table, but because of financial constraints, we actually landed on this one, but it's well supported. So I'm very, very much in support of what it is.
Yeah. And it's really, turned out to be a great decision of the community board, and understanding that community desire and that the priority should be there in Kihikihi, because it's really going to help us achieve our goals. If we had a complicated project then that was difficult to deliver, then we may not have got that climate emergency response funding for it, because the government has said they want quick wins, they want to make rapid progress. So this is an ideal project to do that with.
Nice. So Bruce?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Brian, there's a cost factor in this. I can see if you've got an approximate idea.
Right, so it's around $6.5–7 million.
That does include the safe crossing, doesn't it, across the...
Yes, so crossings and sort of traffic calming on Whitmore Street, being able to do more of Whitmore Street up towards the CBD area, and the crossing outside the school. So we're obviously in the new year, we'll be going to the community and outlining the scope of the project and what it might look like, and getting that community feedback and making sure that we listen to the community and what they really want to see for Kihikihi, and that we're able to then deliver on as many of those objectives as possible.
Okay, so has anyone else got any other questions for Brian? Okay, I've got a couple. So firstly, just wanted to say that when we did our photo shoot the other day, and was talking with the Kihikihi principal, Sunny West, absolutely excited, beyond excited, that something's going to be done down there with that crossing and the cycleway to give the kids the opportunity. So that was really neat feedback to hear. I was wondering, I just, like when we initially talked to Eric about this, we did ask about the possibility of going up Herbert Street to the Domain, because that's kind of the shorter route. And with that funding, is there enough money to do that little extra? Well, it's not that little, but that extra bit, or do you think there's probably somewhere else that would be a better utilisation of that funding, rather than having the shortcut, as opposed to only, because going up Rolleston Street's quite a good old workout unless you've got an electric bike.
Yeah, I guess certainly connecting, from the end of the Kihikihi cycleway through Rolleston Street to Whitmore is certainly going to satisfy a lot of trips or journeys, that are hitting that main road and then off into the side streets where people live. So I guess that's a must-have sort of feature of the work. But then going further past the Domain, there could be merit in that. And so those are exactly the sort of things that we'd like to test with the community. And we're really hoping that we'll get, the whole community board along to those sort of open day events or those connections with the community to hear firsthand what their desires are for the project.
So then that was going to be my next question. What would you like us to do as a community board? So at this point, attend those events. Is there anything else that we can do as a group from your perspective that would be helpful? I mean, I've given the Kiki ratepayers a bit of a heads up that it's coming. I mean, they had seen the article in the paper, but is there anything else more specific that you'd like us to do? Or
yeah, well, I think this is going to be quite a transformational project for Kihikihi. So, just about every resident is going to see it, if not at their front door, then close by. So it's a real opportunity, I think, to connect with the community, to find out, how they want to move around the town. And it's a great opportunity, I think, for the board as a whole to really be connecting with the community, because I can see it's a really good news story, and it's got potential to just create that momentum for continued development in Kihikihi, I believe. So I think getting along to those public sessions we have, being supporters, but also having a critical eye and saying, hey, are you sure that you've hit all the targets here? So talking to staff and about what you're hearing in the community will be great. Will be great supporter. And I guess just remembering also that whenever we do these types of projects, there are also always some knockers, who say, oh, I don't see any cyclists, I don't see any kids walking, so you shouldn't bother spending any money on it. It's kind of that strange thinking that if the road's not safe, then you don't expect to see little kids riding to school. But if you put a safe facility in, so there will be those knockers in the community. And we know that we can never always convince them, but I think being able to talk about the overarching benefits, and that the majority of the community are going to have real, see some real benefits out of this, I think that's an important sort of balance. Yeah.
Nice. And I've just thought of one other thing that popped into my head. Is there any plans at this point, or sort of thinking, is it going to be more of along the lines of a widened shared footpath, or are you thinking more that there'll be, like a cycle way on the actual road? So where is it more going to be? Yeah, which way are you thinking at this stage?
So we are thinking that a big part of the user group in this community are going to be children who are going to school or going to the town centre and the park and things like that. So we do want to make it sure it's a really safe facility. And those sort of cycleways, which are green paint on the road, yes, there might be a little bit of separation, but a lot of adults, parents, they look at that sort of facility and say, no, that's, my child is not of the capability to cycle in that sort of environment. And so where we have cycleways that are separated from the traffic completely, and hopefully also for the most part separated from pedestrians, so the older people are not jockeying for position with kids on skateboards and scooters and things blasting past them, then that's ultimately what we want to achieve for as much of this as possible. Yep. But there might be parts of it that are sort of more at the extremities where a shared path will be okay because there won't be as many users or conflicts. But for the main part of it, we want to have that separation between the two.
Okay.
So it does take up a bit more space.
Yep.
But ultimately, this infrastructure we build will be good for 50 years or more. So we've got to be thinking ahead.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And then as far as the impact on the residents along there from a parking perspective, will that mean that right along Rolleston Street on that side of the road, there will be no parking? Or do you think we've got enough width there to maybe have some parallel parks or something?
Generally, I think the roads will be wide enough to retain some parking, but it's, and we'll be looking carefully at where these things fit in, but we've also we know we've got power poles and other things like that, which often we can't move because it's just incredibly expensive to move them. So we will be likely to be using some road space, but this is the sort of thing that we want to take some concepts to the community and show them and get their feedback. We're not making any decisions or drawing any hard plans and saying that's it. We're going to take that information to the community and have those discussions.
Oh, that sounds awesome, Brian. It's just good if we, over the Christmas period, if we are talking to people, to be able to say, because there are always those that park away, and so it's good to be able to say, well, look, no, there's probably going to be still some parking, so that'll ease some people there. So no, thank you very much. If there's no further questions, we'll move Brian's report. So can I have someone move that the Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board receives the report of Eric van der Wiel, Program Engineer Transportation, titled Urban Mobility Project, please? John and Bruce, all in favour? Against? Carried. Okay. Thank you very much, Brian. Hope you have a lovely Christmas and an awesome break. May have safe holidays, and we'll see you next year. Cool, thank you. Right, so we've got Vanessa and Kirsty with us this evening to have a chat with us about Ahuaki, and that's pages 23 to 93. So, pardon?
Perhaps while Kieran's doing that, if I can just ask Vanessa to introduce herself for the benefit of members who haven't yet met you, Vanessa.
Tēnā koutou katoa all. Ko Vanessa Honore tōku ingoa. My name is Vanessa Honore. I am the Senior Strategic Planner at Waipa District Council. I am also, most of you actually will know me already, here and there, or heard my French accent somewhere. I am also the project manager and co-technical lead for Ahuaki Waipa Community Spatial Plan. Hi.
Kia ora koutou. So just for the benefit of members who were with us last week when we did an induction session, we provided you with an introduction to Ahuaki, our Waipa Community Spatial Plan. And today we're going to take you into more of the detail about where we're at currently. So we're going to, you can go to the next slide. We're going to provide you with an overview of the key parts of our future scenario, which informs the interim draft spatial plan that was approved for community engagement by our Strategic Planning and Policy Committee on the 29th of November. And we're going to talk with you about the community engagement that is scheduled to take place in February and March of next year and the role that you might play in that.
Oh, yep. Is it you changing it? Okay, so I'm going to point at you and magically you can press the button.
I think, do I? I'm doing, yep. So maybe I just talk about where Ahuaki sits. So just by way of recap, just as a reminder, when we started the development of our long-term plan in 2020 for 21-31, we connected with our communities and revisited our vision. So we agreed that when we adopted the long-term plan to build connected communities, and our community outcomes are prefaced on the 4 well-beings that are outlined in the Local Government Act 2002. So focused around social, cultural, economic and environmental well-being. Ahuaki in development will become our key strategic planning document, and the purpose of that really is to ensure that we successfully deliver on our vision and our community outcomes. So as you'll recall from last week's induction, it will drive everything that we as an organisation do. It will help us to inform the development of our 24-34 long-term plan. It will help us to prepare business cases and also to evaluate those through a prioritisation framework prefaced on Ahuaki. And it will also help to inform all of our strategy reviews and future planning projects and initiatives that are derived by the council and through engagement with our community. So I'm going to hand over to Vanessa now, who's going to take you through the key components of the future scenario.
Thank you, Kirsty. I wasn't, well, obviously I didn't attend actually that induction session that you had last week, but I'm assuming that you would remember the way that we have used a methodology called scenario planning and scenario evaluation to reach to the point of getting that future scenario now that is the base for our interim draft plan. So this is the document that was presented at the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee meeting on the 29th of November. And the document was approved for committee engagement, which is due and scheduled in February, March next year. We referring to it as interim draft plan because obviously we're going through committee engagement before it becomes a draft plan in itself, and it will grow through a more formal consultative process around mid-year 2023. We are in a very good position now with that document to provide strategic direction on the next LTP 24-34 projects, and we are also aligning strongly with the environmental strategy and the economic well-being strategy, who are currently being developed in parallel to Awamutu-Kihikihi. Awamutu-Kihikihi, as you probably will have heard from the induction last week, is covering 9 topics in total, and that's to ensure that we're actually looking to detail of all the aspects that needs to be looked at, especially in relevance to growth within WIPA. So and those 9 topics are outlined there, and what I will do today with you is just going through trying to summarize this 60-page kind of document in 3 or 4 slides to give you the key critical key moves, strategy key moves that we are looking to engage the community on. Oh, it's losing his drama, eh?
We asked for one of these for Christmas.
Yeah. Not this one. Okay, I'll just say next slide. Is that okay? Yeah, I do that. So the first topic will be the growth and housing one. From that topic, we didn't see really much changes to what had been stipulated in the 2017 document, which is our 2050 growth strategy. We are expecting and anticipating that none of the boundaries are actually being outgrown by 2050, except for the possibility of Ovopo. So we're still looking at the population of Cambridge and Awamutu-Kihikihi to double, which was actually something signaled already within the 2050 growth strategy. And although the media projection, which are the population projection, are slightly actually accelerated to what were defined in 2017, we're still actually looking at the same amount of growth through the next kind of 30 years. So the town boundaries are likely to be retained as they are, and we don't actually require more growth cells or to actually go outside the current growth cells. And that's really kind of to echo the national policy statement on urban development and intensification, kind of signaling that we don't really need, we shouldn't be going out, but actually going up. Okay, that is being as well kind of reinforced by the recent national policy statement for high productive land. We have a lot in WIPA, and that is actually limiting the amount of growth that can occur around boundaries. Now we are under three level classification for the high productive land. That's something to note. When the growth strategy had been done, it was only 2 high class. We're now at the national level, we've got 3 high class, which is actually kind of restricted even more the level of infrastructure that can happen in those elite soils land. So all of this kind of together is really pushing to an intensification rather than an expansion of town boundaries. As I just mentioned, Ohupu, I'm sorry, I can hear actually my French accent getting worse, and it's just because I'm getting tired. I had a really long workshop today, so please bear with me if I don't It asked me to repeat anything.
I'll interpret.
Yes, please. Yeah. That's why I bring you here. Like, by now you're good at this. Yeah. I can hear it. I'm like, oh, no. Ohopo is the one that we might actually see changes over the next 30 years. We're not saying it's happening in the next 10, 20 years. We are just signaling that this is something that we need to start managing more and more. We're seeing some more pressure happening from Te Whaimana, which is our strategy and vision for the Waikato and Waipa River. We need to make sure that we protect and enhance our peat lakes as well. Ohopo is actually located, the growth of Ohopo is located near next to one, a major one within Waipa. We see actually the axis of more or a transit, a more frequent transit line being set up between Hamilton and Te Awamutu as well. Ohopo is actually in this direction. It's also closer to Hamilton. We're seeing as well more pressure coming from those industrial area, which will require to have residents or worker at least to reside kind of nearby as well. So there is those kind of level of pressure that we see more and more kind of elevating the likelihood of Ohopo growing into more a larger village than it is right now. So it's, we just need to be, we want to really be careful with the language that goes with Ohopo becomes a town. There is some triggers and there is a sequence of triggers that needs to actually occur before this is happening. And one of the main one as well will be as soon as this level of growth pressure will be applied on Ohopo, it's likely that we need to look at a reticulation system for the wastewater. As soon as this is happening, that is pretty much the opening of your growth cells for intensification. So that there is a level of sequencing happening there, but as soon as the reticulation system is kind of hit, button is hit, this is where we can see actually more development happening within the area. So likely to happen probably in the next 20, 30 years, not right now. We will, well, it's a bit of time to kind of manage this between this and now.
Just another thing there though is that future-proof, so
Yes.
Ohopo isn't programmed for growth outside its boundaries under the future-proof strategy. So there would also need to be a connection into the future-proof work.
And that's something that we have signaled at future-proof as well, just introducing that document. But again, that comes on under a severe amount of kind of pressure before everything is kind of opened up. Another likelihood or another signal that we're looking at is the possibility for Cambridge to grow still within its growth cells and still within its town boundaries, but instead of actually growing from a balanced environment north-south, we're probably looking at a growth happening more in the south side of Cambridge towards the Leamington area, more than in the north kind of side of Cambridge. And this is mainly due to the NPS high productive land, because Cambridge is north of Cambridge is actually surrounded by very highly productive land, and that probably will be looked at being protected and conserved. Okay, so so those 2 points are really the critical kind of signals to keep in mind in regard to the growth and housing theme. We're also looking into the Papakanga discussion. As you may know, there is a plan change 23 underway that has been actually approved a couple of maybe months ago now for funding. There is more and more discussion as to how this is going to happen. There is still no Papakanga definition for the Waipa District Council. This is something that plan change 23 will be dealing with. So on that aspect, we're really relying on that project to kind of lead the way for and to inform Ahuaki. A couple of things maybe that we are more signaling outside of the PC23, because we are retaining this 30-year horizon, planning horizon, is the idea of having potential Matawaka and Toroeri coming in the district to establish Papakanga. So Matawaka and Toroeri are Maori who are non-affiliated iwi within the rohe of Wahipa. So they will be iwi returning home, but not affiliating to a particular iwi in some stage. Again, we're looking to actually have proper definition. This is likely that Mana Whenua will be kind of maintaining the process of recognizing who is Matawaka and Toroeri within the council. But this will be actually kind of defined within PC23. This is still under discussions.
So maybe just to highlight there that Ahuaki provides the high level guidance and direction, and Plan Change 23 is, if you like, the implementation tool to give effect to that. So we will be working together alongside each other as we engage with Mana Whenua and iwi, but also as we engage with the wider community. Will be both projects will be working together.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we'll be engaging with the committee at the same time. Yeah. Next slide. Thank you. We are also introducing obviously that economic well-being aspect. A big outline and signal in the Ahuaki, it was the lack of having a rural economy strategy within WIPA, and this is something that we are updating actually our economic well-being strategy to present a rural economy strategy within it. We are looking at Cambridge and Te Awamutu to become urban villages, and I just want to highlight the use of the term urban villages there. We know that they will be qualified as town mainly. The reason why we are using the word urban villages, or two words urban villages, is really to reinforce the necessity to retain a level of character of a village, because that's something that we've seen through the Cambridge Town Concept Plan. We've seen it through the Purunga Town Concept Plan as well, and Kihikihi through the Urban Development Plan as well, had this the committee wanting to actually retain that feel of the village while still gaining the amenities of a town. So that's why we're using actually the urban villages kind of qualifier here. They're looking at Otapu, the airport, Cambridge and Te Awamutu to be the main employment centers. We are looking at the economic well-being to provide a strategic plan towards creating those employment hubs with the most diverse business and industries, bringing actually home higher level of employees. And there is actually some really good ideas out there to bank pretty much on our rural economy to bring actually some of those brains back in WIPA. And there is this idea as well that sometimes we are leaking skills outside of WIPA. We're going to either Hamilton or Auckland or going to the big cities. How do we try to actually retain those people within WIPA as well, with really well-paid jobs and areas that you want to actually live in? On this idea of those areas where you want to live in, we're really looking at the WIPA brand as well, going on the theme, a place that you visit is a place where you want to live. We have such an enormous kind of richness when it comes about heritage, culture, art, the environment, with Mangatatori, with Pirangia, with our past sites, that there is really a story, a narrative that needs to actually be put up front. There is some really good opportunities to partner with Waikato Tourism and Creative Waikato to establish actually those kind of this kind of WIPA brand, and we end up actually discussion with them already. They are very, very keen for this to happen. We just need to ensure that the strategy is highlighting this and that our action plan is it's highlighting this as well. Support agricultural diversification. This is something which is already happening there, and we see actually more and more dairy farms being diversified towards horticultural and kind of side, or even carbon farming. So how do we deal with this? We don't want to be very passive in that sense. Acknowledging that Waipa's economy, it's a rural economy as well. On the environment, Te Ture Whai Mana becomes a given. It's a non-negotiable. It's a strategy and vision that needs to be given effect to. So there is still a misunderstanding. It's still not really clear on the details of how you do give effect to Te Ture Whai Mana at a freshwater management unit or at a catchment, scale. But this is kind of underway, and this is something that needs to be given effect to. There is some legal opinions actually going around, and that's what we need to kind of make set our kind of plan and the environmental strategy to look through it. Tayo Te Tayo is the ecological corridor, that is the Magadatori to Pirangia corridor as well. We need to understand what we can do within this area. This is a fantastic opportunity for indigenous biodiversity, to create again a kind of cultural environment, kind of precinct, and it's quite actually unique within the North Island. Urban forest and open spaces, we're kind of looking again at how can we make those environments a little bit greener. The Esplanade network is really how do we actually reconnect pathways to our reserves who are near the rivers. This is likely to come into collaboration with private landowners. Sometimes we have actually council on land to recreate those pathways. This is also very important for Mana Whenua when we talk about Mangakai. So actually reconnecting back to those waterways where food could be collected before. So trying to reestablish some of the health and well-being of the water through those Esplanade network. And obviously we're calling for climate change risk and vulnerability study, which is something that needs to occur. We already are doing some flooding hazard risk studies, some liquefaction risk study, but we need to really look at from an operational perspective, how do we actually tackle climate change within Waipa? And this is something actually which is coming through the business case improvement process, where we will actually be starting looking at not carbon monitoring, but probably have a better lens on carbon emission through our business cases, right? Heritage, art and culture, another section who comes really under Destination Waipa. So this is, as I said, really establishing even stronger relationship with Waikato tourism. I don't know if it's Hamilton Waikato tourism, I'm not sure yet, but and creative Waikato. We're looking to actually work with Mana Whenua on potentially creating a Maori cultural design leadership, so that we find our ways on how do we actually tell both stories, our bicultural kind of stories of pre-European and post-European, within the same kind of context, have a bit of a clear pathway on telling those stories as well, when we can, and improving the register of our cultural assets. So that's not something which is done currently, and sometimes we're struggling to understand where our cultural assets are, not so much where they are, but in what state they are in. So when do they need actually to be maintained, reviewed? Yes, that's it. Next slide, please. Yeah, I need to go quick. Sorry, I've got 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. And then the park and public facilities. That is really to try to regain, to ensure that the most deprived areas have the same access to sports fields, to libraries, to parks and reserves in general. So re-establishing the equality there as well. Looking at those multicultural and funeral facilities as well. I'm going to highlight the last two there. Third places are when you are creating an activated place within a neighborhood where the main activity there is for conversations. So they tend to be a square front of the community hall, places where you can sit and talk. So that's what we're trying to actually recreate throughout the communities. And Destination Carapiro, we are trying to kind of expose an opportunity which is already there. This is a well-established area within our community for elite athletes. With the Cambridge to Piarere realignment of a state highway, there is new opportunities coming up about potentially the school and recreating a unified actually community. Transport, you would have heard actually this through the transport strategy has already been adopted at the start of the year. So we're only kind of not recycling, I'm not going to say it like that, but reinforcing, thank you, reinforcing what the strategy has told us already. And obviously the free waters, we know that it's quite a strange discussion at the moment because we're not really sure who will be the main role of delivering of those free waters, but we still think that we need to be quite clear on the priorities that WIPA needs to put forward to NTTB for any action to be taken. The more clear we are, the easier it might be to actually gain some funding for those. Okay, next slide. Community engagement. Very briefly, we're going on to a roadshow. It's going to be 6 weeks of craziness, where we're going with all those kind of ideas, putting it to the community and checking with them. Is this something where you see yourself and your children living in? So remember that long term, we always go into a 10 years kind of branches. Here we're going 30, 50 years in events. We're talking about an intergenerational document. So this is not just about yourself and your children. This is about actually your grandchildren as well. The way that we want actually those places to look back. Next slide. And then the final slide here. Yeah, thank you, Karen. So from haven't finished. No. So we're having scheduled 18 events in total from the 20th. We're launching on the 13th of February. First event is in Kihikihi at the school on the 21st of February, and we go for 6 weeks until the 27th of March. This is going to be a staff roadshow, meaning that it will be only manned by staff, by elected members, and guess what, by community members as well. So you're likely to receive an email around the mid to end January to ask about availabilities. Don't book any holidays, you're going to be busy. And we have 3 events in Awamutu, 2 events in Kihikihi, so 5 events in total in the areas here, where we are really looking for support to kind of champion this ahuake. And we know that we might have some difficult conversation happening, but as Kirsty and I kind of mentioned throughout this entire project, because it has actually become way bigger than it was scoped for. If we are to create actually a plan which kind of direct and dictate more or less, this is the first plan of many, okay? Ahuake will be reviewed and it will be reiterated throughout the next kind of 30 years. So that's not all set in stone. But if we are to actually establish something proper for our community on a strategic direction, we need to actually go through this difficult conversation now. And I think Ahuake is the vehicle to do that. And we've done it with many times with Mana Whenua, different level of a communication of the community as well. Ahuake has just been a long, hard discussion in the whole, but we achieved something quite big with the 12th of September, which was a partners workshop where you had actually elected members, GMA partners, and Mana Whenua all sitting around the table to to shape up that future scenario. And one word that came out of that partners workshop is, we've just done it now, we can do it again. And that was it. And it's all about, let's be okay with having hard conversation. This is what Awamutu-Kihikihi is allowing us to do. So let's do it well by making sure we are discussed. Yeah, that's it.
So I guess you know your communities well.
Yes.
You know, we're going to towns and smaller villages, adopting quite an interactive, informal approach, as we did with the community barbecues back in 2020. And keen for you to have a role in this. We invited or as chair of the community board along to the strategic planning and policy committee. You sat at the table and had speaking rights for that item, and keen for the community board to be involved as we progress the development of the plan. Happy to respond to any questions, but mindful of time.
Actually, I was just doing a quick calculation, and you have got a little bit of time because we were ahead. So there you go. We didn't need to rush you. So first of all, thank you very much for going back through that with us, Vanessa. I'm pretty excited about what's ahead of us. So have we got any questions from the community board, Kane?
Yeah, that's a lot of work you guys have put into this. Sort of my questions around, there's so much here in terms, and I guess my question is around aspiration and cost of being able to do all of these things. So is this a case of we're going to put down everything we think we want and then look at the costings and then refine that? Is that how we're going ahead?
So last week when we provided the induction, I don't think you were there, Kane, but I provided an overview of the 5 possible future scenarios, and they went through an evaluation process. So as part of that evaluation framework, not only did we assess against our long-term plan outcomes and the aspirations of mana whenua and iwi as depicted in their iwi environmental management plans and various hui that we had with them, but elected members were really strong with us that whatever we deliver has to be affordable. And so we also did an assessment looking at what funding was provided for within our long-term plan, our current long-term plan. We engaged Infometrics, who assist council in reviewing our economic assumptions that underpin our long-term plan. So they did an economic assessment of the future scenario, of the possible future scenarios. And we also assessed in terms of accessibility. So really important that what is provided for is able to be achieved. I think Vanessa's highlighted that this is a long-term plan. So it will extend beyond, several long-term planning cycles. But this will help to provide clarity for our activity managers and our organisation as a whole, as we then start to develop and review business cases, as they're then evaluated, as elected members make decisions about what makes it into the long-term plan and what doesn't, and the phasing of that work. In terms of the engagement with the community, so it's a starter for conversation. There's a lot of work, it's incredibly complex, and we haven't started with a blank canvas. We've actually gone through and assessed against plans that have already been developed. Vanessa spoke about Waipa 2050, our growth strategy, but also spatial planning work that's been undertaken previously, village by village or town by town. So Pirongia, Nahanapori, Kihikihi Urban Development Plan, Cambridge Town Concept Plan Refresh. They have all fed in, and so now's an opportunity to connect with the community to say, in each place, what's important to you? What if anything, have we missed? What do you think council priorities should be? Yeah.
And just for me, just to add on that, the idea of Awamutu-Kihikihi to provide actually a common strategic direction to support business case writers to define the problem statement of a problem that they're trying to resolve through a business case. the idea behind this is not, it doesn't always align with the cost saving, but at least it aligns with synergies. A business case might actually now be looked at from a transport, environmental, a free water point of view, rather than before it might have looked at 3 business cases, looked at the transport one, the business, environmental one, and then, so what we're actually looking really to, and that's what we're trying to feed through that long-term plan process now, is how we actually recreate those synergies to create some efficiencies through the process, and likely by saving on maybe the amount of consultation that we're doing or engagement with the committee. Hopefully there is some savings through there. Then I'm not saying that this is linking, but at least some synergies and some efficiencies being created through the process.
Bruce, go ahead. Bruce, yeah.
Sorry, in very little context, I don't know if it is. Is there an assumption that with Hamilton Grange South that they'll gobble up Rukuhia and so we don't need to worry? Are they mentioned in here?
No, I suppose what we were trying to highlight in there, because Nahina probably it's not that much mentioned either, and so is Pukeatua, for example, or Kepahu. What we really focused on is probably not is signaling those key moves and key changes, and that's really where the future scenario is kind of leading. Now, mentioning this in the Rukuhia, there is a call for a master plan to happen around Mystery Creek and the airport and south of the Southern Links. It's likely that Rukuhia will be part of that master planning to understand what are the impact of the growth in that industrial area into Rukuhia itself. At the moment, it's not really looking to grow beyond what the growth strategy is telling us. But with the Southern Links actually going down and the transfer of land currently happening, that is something to kind of look at the master plan level now.
I think just to mention that obviously there's a lot of work that has gone into this, and as part of our preparation work, we've prepared place summaries for each of our areas that have growth cells identified within Waipa 2050, and so those place summaries will help us to I guess inform the engagement that we have when we go out as part of that roadshow. So really keen to connect with those smaller communities and hear from them what they want their place to look and feel like. Yeah.
And that was one of the comments that you had made as well before. So we have updated the comms and engagement to look at Te Pahu and Rukuhia as well.
Yeah, I fully understand that, especially when you put Te Pahu in there, that possibly they're not going to grow. They'll grow so much, but in the next up to 2050, they're not going to be out of control, are they? And Rukuhia mostly the same.
But it's still a rural community that we need to plan for. And you know, what we heard before is just that they don't really feel affiliated with Waipa because they are such in a remote kind of sense community. And that's probably something that we need to actually go back to and discuss, you know, knowing what the issue and opportunities are for the village.
We got any more questions? No? Okay. Thank you so much, Kirsty and Vanessa. Yes, we've already mentioned a massive amount of work, and hopefully as a community board, we can do it justice and help you guys where we can. Looking forward to that. So yeah, in the meantime, have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's. We'll see you all next year. But in the meantime, I better not forget to move your report and presentation. So can I please have someone to move the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board receives the verbal report of Vanessa Horane, Senior Sergeant Planner, Ahu Aki Interim Draft Spatial Plan, please. Kane and Lou, all in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, thank you, ladies. And you actually had 5 more minutes. Okay, so let's move on to item 9, the chairperson's report, pages 94 to 97. Oops, and Diligent Boards has just kicked me out, so I just jump back in here. Okay, so first off in my report, you'll notice that, excuse me, you'll notice that I've made a recommendation about our logo and getting some more flags. Pardon me. So did anyone have any questions about that at all? Otherwise, if there's not really any questions, we'll move that part.
Did we want to refresh the colours at all? Did we want to have a think about that?
What do people think about the colours? Those are historically Te Awamutu colours, which is why the main street and signage and things, I think that stems from the rugby lads, does it?
Peace Cup.
Yep, Peace Cup. So there's the history of the colours. So my recommendation was that we kept it fairly simple so that there's not a huge cost, and by just making a slightly stylized name that effectively creates a logo with both Te Awamutu and Kihikihi names included in the logo without, creating extra fuss. So any thoughts on that? Are we comfortable with that? Great.
All the stationery, we can just use that out, can't we? We can just keep the old stuff until it's gone, right? We're not going to.
I don't think we've actually got really any stationery with it on. It's mostly used on emails. Otherwise, most of the things we're, like our agenda and things, would probably be quite nice if we could have it popped on our agendas going forward once we've got it all done. Yeah. Yeah, you just set it up in your thing. So, yep. All right. I'm going to, okay, if everybody's happy with that, let's just move my report and move this part of it, because this was the only bit that really needed moving. And then if there's any questions on any of the rest of it, I can just speak to that. So let's go. That the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board receives a report of Angela Holt, Chairperson, Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board, titled Report for the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board. That the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board A, obtains quotes for a new logo retaining the theme of the current logo, B, updates the Community Board flags with the new logo, and C, approves the expenditure of up to $750 plus GST from the Community Board's uncommitted funds to produce the new logo and purchase the replacement flags ready to use in the new year. So can I have someone to move that? John and Sally, all in favour? Against? Carried. Yep. Cool. Thank you very much. So did anyone have any other questions for me around anything I've mentioned in my report?
The Blackout Street Party.
Yes.
Do we have any involvement with that at all?
Any
involvement?
No, because if you recall, when they applied to the discretionary fund, on both occasions, there were things that the community board weren't comfortable with, and so we didn't end up supporting them through any sort of funding. So yeah, the chamber pretty much did it themselves.
It's really popular, eh?
Yeah, it was great.
So
yep.
It's a good opportunity.
I'm
thinking down the line, right?
Yeah, no, and they're keen to do it again, and wearing my chamber hat. They actually meet on Thursday, but some of the initial discussion since the event was that to try and combine more community organisations so that, it's more many hands make light work. So just to have more people on the ground to help out with the organisation and possibly, break it up into chunks so that's sort of one of the initial discussions, but I'll know more about that next time. Yep.
If I can, through the chair, just provide an update regarding the questions raised around how progressing for your earlier recommendation around the cameras and the community assessment of cameras. So I'd just like to provide an update that we received from Brian, and there has been a meeting held on the 7th of December with the Ram Raid Committee, and this included the local security operator who installed some of those community cameras. There is now a broader understanding of the community camera system design, and another meeting has been organised with this operator and council staff to further explore the opportunities to cooperate. So that is progressing in that respect.
Through you, Madam Chair, they actually are going to supply, Terry's going to supply a map of the whole area, all the cameras that he's installed, which is probably 90% of them anyway. So that will allow the council to actually coordinate. So yeah, thank you for that. That's really appreciated.
And then I've just got one other little update on that council approved spending the 300,000 regardless of whether it comes from the better off funding. That's what it is. Yep. So that was good to know that will be, it's all there ready to go. So those locations will just be checked, which I'm stoked to hear that. It was really great. So if there's nothing further in regard to my report, we will move on. We've done it. We did it backwards to what I normally do because it is, Okay, so we'll move on to item 10, the Treasury report on pages 98 to 100. So we'll jump over. So has anybody got any comments or any questions around the Treasury report? I think it's fairly self-explanatory. A little bit of money still sitting there, balance of $28,465. So if there's nothing further there, let's move that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board received the report of Nada Milne, Financial Accountant, titled Treasury Report for the period ended 30th of November 2022. Bruce, someone to second that? Kane, thank you. All in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, page 101 to 106, the sharing shed wheelie bin. So this was a wee bill that we had a little hiccup with, didn't we? I'm not quite sure. It went missing in action. So this is just tidying this up for the payment of the wheelie bin that Jan very kindly Jan used to very kindly keep the sharing shed nice and tidy. Just as a little bit of an aside, she's stepped down from that role, so the wheelie bin's actually gone back now. So at this point in time, it's looking after itself. But I have been sort of keeping an eye on it, and it seems to be not too bad at the moment. So anyway, basically what we need to do is just simply approve the payment of the outstanding invoice for $146. So unless I've got any questions or anything, we'll then move that. John? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you had a question. Oh, good. Okay, well, let's just quickly move this, that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board A receives the report of Karen Phillips, Governance Officer, titled Sharing Shed Wheelie Bin, and B approves the payment of the outstanding invoice of $146.96 plus GST, 169 GST inclusive, for the rental of a wheelie bin from Cambridge Hire Bins from its uncommitted funds. So we've got that moved by John, seconded by Bruce, because they were ahead of me. All in favour? Against? Carried. Super duper. Thank you. Right, item 12 is any reports from meetings that people have attended. So have we got anything, an update from anyone at this point in time? Lou, would you be able to update us on the,
Ram raids.
and urban miners?
And
I was also
urban
thinking
miners,
for a
yeah,
date.
I've got them all written down here. So the Ram Raids Committee actually met with the mayor on the 7th, but we actually pre-met on the 5th. So we've actually had a quick meeting about bollards. We had a very, very good document set out by Kathy, and that was actually about what we can do and can't do with bollards. We inspected a couple of sites with having a look at Spark and the what they've done there, which is now the council is saying it's the preferred option with the bars, and our own local site, which we're negotiating with police for their RSA, because we're on our second ram raid, and as you know, that we're looking at bullets. We should be able to locate them off the pavement in our own property, but we'll still have to look for service lines and everything. So that was good. We talked about CTV footage, all right, and organised the mayor with the one on the 7th. So organised that from that meeting, so we could get together. So that's good. They're positive. They're moving forward, and James Clark is our chair. And he's from Fresh Choice, and Kirsty Ride is our secretary. So they're doing very well. They're just going through with all the local community.
Thanks.
That was that one, and the other one was urban miners. Urban miners, we've talked about other dates. It's back to the 29th, definitely January 29th collection. We're going to actually put a full-scale article in the Waikato, sorry, not Waikato, the Courier and the Te Awamutu News, and we're reducing our charges quite significantly on a number of items. So that'll be well worth doing and getting it up there. And I was talking with Mark. I've collected 2 buckets of batteries today.
What did we have the other day? 40 kilos or something. I think the last 2 buckets weighed in at.
Yeah, I know. I carried.
So I know I lifted them out.
But I think if I just
was it 46 point? Yeah, they were heavy. Getting them out of the car.
I'm quite happy because I live quite close, and we shop there, so I can just go down. I've left 2 buckets in there, but if I see them full, I'll just carry them over Christmas. So
yep. Thanks for that, Lou. How are we going on our funding with that? Do you know?
29, yeah. It's a Sunday.
So at the moment, so originally the Te Awamutu Community Board set aside.
Oh, excuse me, Lou, Bruce.
$2,500, of which they are now down to, they've got just over $1,000 to spend on that. So $1,096.98 left over. I haven't got an average here, but it looks like on average, it looks like it's about $150 per pickup around that 40 kg mark.
Oh, they've been a bit lighter than that.
On that charge, though. Because the battery,
for batteries as well, are they going down as well?
The battery charges are coming down a bit.
Whew, that means we'll get some more in there before it.
Yeah, no,
the money will go further.
Yeah. What I'm saying, what they're charging us, come down a bit.
Yeah. However, we have noticed lately that there seems to be more batteries going in the containers. So Lou just called in the other day, and it was only 2 weeks after we'd last emptied it, and it was already nearly full. So it's good to see people putting their batteries out. So that's fantastic. So thank you, everybody who drops off their batteries at Pack and Save.
Well, just one thing I'd like to see us do, and is actually advertise that this is being done by the community board. We don't get enough mileage. You've got a little sign on it, but I actually think that something in the paper to say that this is what you're doing. We will have some competition with Mitre 10 soon too. So they're looking at a different option altogether. So they're thinking of having a similar type of collection and pay it side. We're doing it for free.
So yeah, so when that actually comes to fruition, we'll have a bit more of a discussion as to whether, and we're getting closer to running out of money. I think we'll probably have a bit of a discussion around what we want to do going forward, whether we support Mitre 10 and the user pay system, or whether we want to continue with what we've started and provide a free service.
We'll probably have an idea too, of course, by then.
Yep. So we can look at that then. So that was your couple of things. Thanks, Lou. So did anyone else have anything that they'd been along to or wanted to comment on? Or
No, I just had one little bit to add to that, today I attended the unveiling of the Walk of Fame Po along with John and Sally, and Lou, of course. Awesome event. It was wonderful to see another 6 people in our community acknowledged. And it was also really nice, I felt, to see the diversity of the people that we acknowledged. So we had sporting people, we had a course designer, we had an author, we had a musical composer. So, you know, there was a wide range of people being acknowledged for their contribution, that we can be very proud to say that they came from Te Awamutu and at least grew up here. So congratulations to those people, and thank you to council, staff and everybody who was involved in putting on that event. I understand that the poor staff got saturated this morning trying to put up the tent because it decided to pelt down at that time. And then the other thing that is happening on Sunday at 3 p.m. will be the unveiling of the plaque to acknowledge the Queen. The Queens, oh my gosh.
The Queen and the Duke.
And the Duke, yes, of them both.
They visited.
And of their visit, that's right. So, sorry, I had a mental block there. So I'll be attending that. And if anyone else would like to come along, I'm sure Luke would love to see some faces there. So 3 o'clock on Sunday the 18th. Okay, but far for Sally, that's all right. If you're away, that's all right. But just letting you know if you are around. So looking forward to seeing that happen because it's been a long time coming. So thanks everyone. Yep, on to item 13. Kieran's making sure I don't forget anything. So we've got the schedule of meetings for 2023.
Just a quick point to,
yep, sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
You've got 2 meetings in February, one for the 2nd of February.
Yep.
And one for the 22nd.
I think we did that on purpose to balance it up.
It was a misprint because it is, that's fine. I've written them down, but I just want to make sure that was correct.
This was discussed at the very first community board induction session where councillors weren't there because you guys hadn't been appointed. So there was a bit of a discussion that you guys unfortunately missed. So yeah, but certainly, I mean, it's up to the community board now to decide whether they want to have 2 meetings in February or not.
Yeah.
Question on the 2nd of February is a Thursday. Is there any reason for it being Thursday?
Misprint.
Okay.
Good spotting, Bruce.
And can I have another little thing on the 26th of April? That's a council day. Is that all right? Or should it be the 19th, the week before?
I thought we'd missed those.
Everything's supposed to be a Wednesday.
Oh, should be a Wednesday. That's why I was thinking that we'd missed it. 2nd of February.
I'm just going by this.
26th of April.
26th of April was a Wednesday. Because the day before is
yes, he said 26th of the
26th of April.
Yeah, 26th of April as a council day.
So they push the council back a day.
Oh, is that what's happened?
That's where confusion, because I looked at it.
Ah.
Did you want to change it to another day in that week then?
Probably would pay to put it back, council. But you know, it's like
so it should be the 1st.
Not 1st February. If you want, the question is if we move it to the next week, it'll be May, and so you'd have 2 meetings in May, or do we move it back to the
19th, which is a previous Wednesday?
No, you can't do a Wednesday. It'll have to be
what about Thursday?
27th of April. Yeah, 27th of April. Does that sound all right?
So we'll just move ours back a day to do the same as council. So it's just the same. Would that make it easier as well? So then it's all doing the same thing.
So the changes so far, we've changed the first one to the 1st of February, yep, and 22nd February, 22nd March, 27th of April, 24th of May, 28th June, 23 August, 27 September, 25 October, 22 November, and 13th of December.
So those all worked out, right? 24, 28. Oh, we're not doing July?
unless you want to.
I'll come on my own. 23, 27, oh, Libby Mag. Yep. 22, and 13. Yep. Okay. So is everyone happy with that? Yep. And everyone's all right with Wednesdays? That's all good. Got out of Tuesdays for extended council and then a community board meeting. All right, let's move this then. Okay, that the Te Awamutu-Kihikihi Community Board A receives the report schedule of meetings 2023 of Karen Phillips, Governance Officer, and B adopts the following schedule of meetings for 2023 commencing at 6 p.m. Do we need to acknowledge those changes?
No, because I've changed it in the resolution now.
Cool, thank you. So can I have someone to move that, please? Oh, John and Sally. Yeah, oh well. Yeah. Okay, all in favour? Against? Carried. Oh my gosh, this is a record. We better take a photograph of the clock. Setting a new precedent, the meeting is officially closed at 7:34. Is it? Oh, it's gone past. Okay. Oh no, the laptop's right. 7:30. That's even better. That clock. Well, we won't take a picture of that clock. Oh, okay. Graham's there waiting. Oh, he was optimistic, thinking we were going to be ready by 7:30. Okay. So we are now having a workshop with Graham Pollard, the strategic projects driver. So even though it's not officially part of our meeting, it has still been live streamed, just so you are aware. Yes, you most certainly may. Hi, Graham.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair. Good evening, members. Hopefully you can hear me.
Oh.
Are we okay?
Yes, sorry, I was having
right.
a mouthful
Okay.
of water.
Yep. That's all right. I'm conscious of the time. Yes, I was a bit optimistic, but my dread when coming into these meetings is that I'm late and you're all sitting there wondering where on earth I am. So better to be early than leave everybody waiting. So thank you for this opportunity to introduce to you our draft environment strategy. The councillors, of course, will have seen this already. It'll be new for the community board. It is very much a draft and a work in progress. I believe that it was circulated to you. That wasn't necessarily for homework prior to the meeting, and can certainly read that at your leisure, and do feel free to feedback to me on the content of that document. Obviously, say it is a draft, there's still plenty of work to be done on it. Now I'm going to share my screen and hopefully get the right one. So are we? Looks as if we're good to go. Okay, so if this is going to work. Right, here we go. Okay, so the purpose of the workshop, as I say, to introduce the environment strategy to you, but also outline opportunities for you as community boards, and I'm including the ward committee as well on this, and also opportunities for community involvement to be able to give us some feedback, rather like with Ahuaki. There'll be, I'm sure, plenty of work arising from community engagement. This is a 30-year strategy. Things happen in the environment over the longer term, so the strategy needs to consider that. We want to protect, restore, enhance the Waipa environment. It also includes Council's response to climate change. And we're basically setting aspirations for the Waipa district, regardless of who the agencies are who might be delivering. Example of that might be some community projects for biodiversity conservation, where council might be supporting the action of the community, and of course whatever happens in the three water space, there's still the aspirations that that we want to achieve. There has been some progress to date. It started last year with a background information paper that was going to support a big partner and stakeholder workshop. There was COVID that got in the way of that, so we had to do that online. We are partnering with Naiwi Taupu or Waipa and the Waikato Regional Council. Obviously, the Regional Council has very much an environmental focus. We've done partner and stakeholder engagement. We've done various focus groups with the rural business sector, students, for example. And we've obviously worked this through with elected members through the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee, particularly focusing on vision, principles and themes. The process is still ongoing. Staff have developed high-level goals, focus areas, objectives, how we're going to measure progress, any targets, all of that. We've tested it with our partners, and that's an ongoing process as well. Document is obviously drafted because we've sent you a version of that. It's on a new format from how we originally developed it. The feeling is that this new format works even better, even though we had positive response on the earlier drafts. And we're now getting into as well considering the development of the action plans. It's all very well saying what we want to achieve. We do need to be looking at how we're going to do that. So we're starting the work on the action plans. We're looking to be positive, obviously, would not just, and we're trying to use positive language as well. So not just the usual kind of phraseology that you might see in a corporate document, but we want it to be positive because we want the community to be engaged in this and feel that it's for them as well, and to want to take part as well in trying to achieve what we're looking for through this strategy. Coming back to Ahuaki, just in case you are still wanting more on the community spatial plan, the environment strategy has fed into Ahuaki, but it also takes direction from the community spatial plan. It is one of the actions arising from that plan. So the environmental bottom lines in Ahuaki are most definitely covered by the environment strategy. We're really trying to make sure that the two documents are going to be very, very closely aligned. And certainly actions on the environments that are in Ahuaki will be showing in the environment strategy as well. What the environment strategy does is to take that environmental work deeper and be more specific. So we might not see quite so much detail around climate in Ahuaki itself. That should come through in the environment strategy and the actions arising from that. So what's actually in it? So just a look at what the contents are going to look like. So we obviously start off at a very high level, a sort of telescopic view of what we're trying to achieve. And some of our vision has been informed by some wonderful videos we had from some of our primary schools that are actually part of the EnviroSchools scheme. They've provided us with some wonderful ideas as to what they'd like to see in WIPA in the environment in the years to come. Some wonderful ideas. Whether they're achievable is another question entirely. We developed principles. There's sections on how this might be financed and monitored. We've got some environmental challenges and then various focus areas as well. So we start with the telescopic view and we come down to very much the detail of what we're trying to achieve and what we're going to do to try to achieve it. We've developed with Naomi Torpu 8 principles for the development and implementation of the strategy. Partnership is important, not just with Naomi Torpu, Manawhenua, but also communities. Participation of everybody who wants to participate. The inclusiveness is really, really important. And this is where the intergenerational aspects of the strategy come into it. Because what struck me is that people talk in the climate space about what the environment's going to be like, what the climate will be like in 2100. Well, our kids who are starting school or just being born now can expect to see the climate at the end of the century. So really, it's important that we're looking at this from an intergenerational perspective. I won't go through all of these in detail because it's all there in the draft for you to read, but there's a quick summary of what those 8 principles are. We then have what we've identified as environmental challenges. There's some question as to whether that's the right term, whether they're challenges, priorities, focuses. We've still not settled on quite what that terminology should be, but these are the key issues that we feel are important facing us. So climate change, the helping to implement Te Tori Whaimana, so water in the environment, biodiversity, really key issues that were identified by the communities 2 or 3 years ago as part of developing the community outcomes in the current LTP. The final one is also important, is leadership by council, and that's part of what someone said earlier today about council getting its own house in order. So that would be things like council's own greenhouse gas reduction plans. And the way we've drafted the document is, in order to make it readable for the lay reader, is there's a relatively short description of each of these challenges. If you want to know more detail, and we have more detail available, that is put in end notes. So it's there in the document right at the end if you want to go hunting for it. If you don't, then hopefully the earlier description is quite sufficient for you. So we've tried to carry that format through wherever possible. Each challenge has been given what I'm calling an ambition, simply because it's a high level goal. Ambition might be more positive or more exciting than high level goal. Interested to receive feedback on that. Not intending to apply any measures to these, simply because achieving the individual objectives should help achieve those. Now, I've not actually had any feedback on these at all, so that might be because, or it might be an indication they're not very prominent in the document, in which case they might be in the wrong place, and I need to have a look at that. So if you do hunt them out and you've got any feedback, really keen to receive that. But these are just to give some very high level statement of what we're trying to achieve. And then under each of the challenges, we have some focus areas, usually two. I think there's one that has 3 focus areas. That it just helps the reader to navigate their way through the document by just breaking things up into more bite-sized chunks. And each focus area has the same format. So you've got the heading, you've got a context statement to sort of put this focus area into some kind of context, and then the various objectives. Each objective has a statement of purpose to explain it, any measures of how well we're doing, and any targets that we've got. And then each focus area will have an action plan. Now, the action plans or the content of the action plans you see at the moment really just lists of actions that have been suggested to us already during the partner and stakeholder engagement, and things that staff have already identified as we need to be thinking of getting on with. So there's still a lot of work to be done on those action plans, and there may be actions to be added, and some of them might actually fall out of the document as well. So please don't take all of those actions as definitely going to happen. We also need to work out what the costs might be, when things might happen, who we might work with on those actions. So still lots of work to do there. One of the principles you may have noticed was one of connections and connectivity, and certainly the challenges very frequently connect with each other. So I think something like 75% of the objectives actually have a climate component to it, either climate greenhouse gas mitigation or climate resilience or climate effects on something like biodiversity. But they're not all listed under climate change. So you'll see each focus area showing the connections with the other challenges, as an example we've got there. So hopefully we can demonstrate the connections throughout the document. And so the next steps, we are intending to engage with the community as part of the Ahuaki engagement and the roadshows, as part of the environmental component of Ahuaki. And following that engagement, we'll move towards completing the draft strategy. There will be formal consultation. There's certainly going to be a lot of community interest in this. So there'll be consultation. We'll take submissions as well. And all on the timeframes being integrated with Ahuaki. because obviously, as this falls out from the community spatial plan as one of its actions, we can't be completing this one first. That would be jumping ahead of the game. So it's all on that same kind of time frame. And that is my introduction to the environment strategy. As I say, feel free to contact me with any feedback at all. It doesn't have to be in the next day or two, but as something comes to you, feel free to feedback any thoughts that you pick up from the community as well. Join us on the roadshows with Ahuaki and help us out with this. That would be really, really fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Graham. That was very, very interesting. So are there any questions at this stage from Graham? Anything you want clarified or anything? Yep, Kane.
Hi, Graham.
Hi.
Are we, in terms of keeping up with the science around global warming, etc., the latest I've heard was that the increase has gone from 5 degrees to 2.5 degrees and 2100. Is that the way to put it? So I'm just, I guess the question I'm asking is, does that impact on the number of changes and targets and goals that we are targeting? Because some of these things are going to be quite an imposition.
Yep.
And it's going to be quite costly, in some cases overly punitive in my view. But so are we keeping up with the science, and is that going to be flowing through at all?
Well, various things in response to that, Kane. It's a really interesting question. I'll try and do justice to it in my answer. First of all, we intend to do 5-yearly reviews on the strategy, so we can keep flexibility as things like our knowledge and science changes. Also, of course, the national emissions reductions plan and the various emissions budgets, the carbon budgets, will change over time. We don't yet have an emissions reduction plan for council or any decision as to whether we should have one for the district. And if we do, that is probably going to be reflective of what's in the National Emissions Reduction Plan, which, because of the Climate Change Commission, should be keeping abreast of the science for everybody else. So you would hope that that the carbon budgets will change accordingly. So that, of course, has got to feed through to any actions that council can take or facilitate, and whatever costs those are going to be. We're certainly mindful that this is going to be potentially costly. So anticipating you asking again the question you asked of Vanessa earlier with the cost of Ahuaki, same kind of thing applies here as well. This is a 30-year strategy. Funding priorities of the community might change over that time. Funding sources might change. So we've got to keep all of that in mind, hence the 5-yearly reviews. Does that help answer your question, Kane?
Yep, no, that's fine. That's all good.
Great, thanks.
And just another quick one. Obviously, we're going to be reliant on batteries pretty heavily with going forward. In terms of the environment, have we put any thought, and I don't know if we have or not, right, but it's just a thought, like, have we put any thought into recycling these or disposal? Because that's going to be a massive impact on the environment. And it's almost like we're trying to solve one problem but creating another.
Yeah, I understand. And entirely, having tried doing a battery recycling scheme many years ago in Taupo. I'm fully with you on that. I think the easiest way for me to respond to that one is that work is going forward on a new waste management and minimisation plan. And I would expect that that is a question that will be considered during that. If not, I will make sure that it is at least considered, because I will pose the question for you to make sure that's at least considered. But I would imagine that it will be included, because obviously the chemicals and the leachates from batteries has quite big potential impacts on the environment, and as you say, more batteries, the potential for more leachates.
Thanks, Graham. Appreciate it.
Okay, cheers.
Okay, so have we got any further questions? No, we're all good. Okay, we've got plenty to mull over for our summer reading.
Yep.
So thank you, Graham.
That's if we get a summer. It's still pouring with rain, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that'd be right. Hopefully we'll get the odd sunny day in there just to keep our hopes up. So thank you very much. Hope you have a lovely Christmas and a well-deserved break, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year. So thank you again very much.
I may even make it in person.
That would be nice. We always like to